Alright, so I am back in Parkitect. It has been so long since I've been in Parkitect, and I think that might affect me today in today's episode. But I do have a couple of reasons why it has been long, and if you haven't seen the last Golden Gulch time-lapse episode, I did actually say that I was going to be going on a little vacation for about a week and a half. So that happened, and I got a couple cool videos coming out, or that actually came out about Carowinds, so that's where we visited. And then we also have school starting up in a couple of days. So actually, by the time this is out, it actually probably has started already. So Parkitect kind of has taken a little backseat burner for me. I wanted to get the Golden Gulch episodes out because I really like that series. Not saying that I don't like the series, but I like having one episode a week of Golden Gulch. But this one, maybe I will still try and do once a week as well, but we might have to do every 2 weeks or something like that, since these episodes do take a significant amount of time to create. So without further ado, why don't we look into what we're doing in today's episode of Parkitect. We are going to be tackling, out of our two options, Adventure Island. And the description for this is, this small island park with a unique observation tower wants to attract more guests, but its cold and wet climate is keeping visitors away. So the cold and wet is definitely going to be effective. It's going to shut down a lot of rides and make us lose a lot of money. So the scenario goals for this is to have 500 guests in my park and a happiness rating of 80%. So it doesn't seem too hard. We've had similar goals in previous episodes. And then optional is to complete all non-optional goals by the end of year 2 in December. So we have exactly 2 years to finish this park. So it doesn't really seem that hard of a park to do. So why don't we load in, and hopefully I don't underestimate this at all. First loading in though, first thoughts, we have a giant coaster, looks really cool, looks really fun, but the operations all look very sucky. 2 cars on this massive coaster doesn't look good, but I don't think I'm gonna be changing anything about it, just because even though it's 2 cars, having it at a good amount of money, bringing in money at least, and not wasting any money on that is going to be beneficial. Let's pause the game here. And actually, why don't we see how much money it's making? $450 for this big of a ride. That is crazy. So why don't we bump that up? Oh, I don't know what I hit there. Why don't we bump that up to maybe $12 or something like that? Just that so we can get more money out of it, since it is a big ride with a good amount of intensity, actually. Yeah, high, and then extreme excitement. So that is one of our big rides that's hopefully going to help us out a lot. It shouldn't be enough to make us beat the game, or this level at least, because it is the starting ride anyway. And then we also have a twister, which we can also bump up maybe to $3, just because it is kind of an intense ride. So a lot of these rides, you can actually, when you first load in, you can actually bump up the prices, and I think that goes for almost all of the rides you create and stuff. That way, it's just because the game makes it such a low price, so you can bump it up. I don't know if you can do that with all of them though. So that is basically what we got going on. And then all the way down here, actually, we have an observation tower, which I believe is the elevator ride. And then we have a little food court here. This is probably what's going to make it hard to do, is having this humongous map. So maybe what I'll do is I'll cut the map in half, maybe like right here or so, somewhere like before we get over to this area, and that way we'll have more like room, and we're not wasting money on, or we'll have less room, but we're not going to be wasting money on maintenance for this ride. And then our food court over here, which doesn't have a little depot in it, so that means we're gonna have to run piping and all that stuff. So we're gonna leave this area be for the beginning, I believe, and then we're just gonna work on this front half for right now. So hopefully this area, and I think I want to go for a little bit more detail than I normally do. It's a pretty simple theme. It's wood, really, wooden posts and wooden roofs, so nothing too intense, and I really do think that this scenario has a great potential to do that stuff. So why don't we look in our rides then? 2 calm rides. We have a carousel and a wave swinger. We'll definitely put that wave swinger in. It's a pretty good ride that gives a good amount of crowds for the low people, or the less thrill seeking people. On our thrill rides, we have three, one of them already in place, which is the Twister, and then the Top Scan, which is definitely going to be beneficial. That is going to be one of the very first rides we're going to put in. And then this drop tower, or it's the gyro drop tower. Um, I'm just going to call it the drop tower though. And this one is also hopefully going to bring in a lot of people. It did in the Mystic Oasis one. So what do we have for coasters? We have a junior coaster and a powered coaster, and then our vertical drop coaster is in use. So I think a junior coaster would look very nice, kind of conforming to the terrain going by the bay or the ocean, whatever it is. And then I don't really like power coasters, so maybe if we do research enough, I think it would look really cool to have a big wooden coaster back here, kind of finishing off the sightline in the background. So that is basically all we have for rides. We have our elevator ride and then a paddle boat ride. And then for wrong one. Shops, we have just the hot drinks and pretzels, so we probably will have to research. And actually, I think an umbrella shop would do very well in this place. And then for our shops, nope, we just looked at those. My bad. We looked at everything we have right now. So I think the plan is to just cut it in half, cut the park in half at least, and work on this beginning section and definitely square away this because that's definitely going to affect our happiness rating here. And then we're going to start some research on maybe some thrill rides. Let's say that. Okay, so that seems like a good idea here. Why don't we jump into a time lapse and see what we can whip up in this seemingly easy but not easy scenario. Going along with the plan that I stated in the intro area or section of this video, we are going to be cutting this park in half. And the way I decided to do this is by going into the decorations area or that tab, and then I found this like park sign or whatever. I think that's what it's called. And then you can actually set settings on it. So you can make it a staff only path. You can make it a guest only path, and you can actually make it that nobody can go back there. So that's what I did. I made it so nobody could go back there, and that way nobody is able to go back past the halfway point of the park. And in doing so, it basically shuts down. Well, it doesn't shut it down, but I shut down the rides back there and the shops back there. So that is going to help, hopefully, help with keeping everybody in the front half of the park and making their money spent there, and then we don't have to waste no money in the back side where there's nothing is going to be back there. All right, and then we actually did put down a flat ride, and that's the top scan, which has already been placed, and we've already done all that stuff. And we made a little queue, and then we done a bit of surrounding paths and plazas over there, and we'll definitely go back over there and put some more rides in over there as well. But now what we're doing is we are working on some backstage stuff. So I put down the staff training building and the staff work or restroom, and that is so that people or the staff members have a place to rest since the scenarios actually don't give us those things. So just kind of dressing those up, making it look like it's a part of that one building, and making it look all nice and fancy. And then we're gonna be fencing this area off so that people cannot see in here and then get lose their immersion rating and stuff like that. So then after that, we are actually going to go back over to our top scan and put on our second ride, which both of these are high thrill rides for a reason. And the reason why they are high thrill is because I wanted them to draw in those high people or high thrill people. Since a lot of the time people are complaining that things are not thrilling enough. So those are two really thrilling rides, and hopefully that's going to satisfy our customers enough for right now until we get more. So this one actually has a full queue cover for it. It has the like cobblestone fencing and then a dark brown roof with the light borders, kind of keeping the theme throughout the whole park. So and that's something that I really wanted to do with this park. Keep it really, really themed and kind of all in the same theme, but not going overboard. So that is really kind of cool with that one. And each one is going to be a little bit different, which is also kind of cool. But now we're jumping back over to where our Killer Bee entrance is, which is the big coaster. And we're actually going to be putting in a food court. It has the exact same two shops from the beginning of the park, where it's by the Eiffel Tower area or tower observation deck. And that's just basically over there or over here so I could connect it to the backstage area and not have to have the haulers going across the whole park. And then we made a little wooden plaza area, put some benches down, and then I actually made this huge restroom building so that it is a full plaza. And I have these like height varying roofs to it, and that makes it look way better as well. And then this building is kind of cool as well. So, as I said, everything is a bit different, and then it's not. So, going on to our next building, once we finish decorating this, I believe we are going to be going on to a carousel, which I wanted the carousel to be the first ride in this park that you see. It really doesn't get that much people going into it, but I really do like the feel of seeing this kind of grand ride right at the beginning of the park. And then if they want to take a detour, they can go to the Killer Bee instead of going to the rest of the park. So this building, or we're actually going to be covering the carousel all the way up. It's going to be a super grand building, and I really actually think that this is the best decorated building that I've ever made in Parkitect. I have made more decorated buildings in Planet Coaster just because it's kind of easier to, but this building, I really didn't think it was going to be this big and this crazy intricate and stuff, but it did. And really, it's not that complex either. It's really just kind of a box and then built up. But I really think that I made it look pretty nice, and especially with this one corner where it's a flat roof instead of a slanted roof. But you can see that it kind of just slants up and then it goes into a spire. But there's going to be a lot of detailing that goes into this building, especially with this border work. And I'm really happy with how this border work came out. But the one problem that I do have with this building is that the carousel does kind of clip through the roof here and there. You can see it, the yellow going in and out of the brown. But I'm willing to suffer through that for this building since I'm really happy with how this building came out. And another thing that kind of threw me off was the slant of the borders. But in the end, I actually like how it kind of raises up instead of goes right on the wood. So it just kind of brings an extra dimension to it. And then we actually rose the spire up so that it was kind of a little bit extra level, and then I was able to put in a little bit more border work, which made it look a bit better as well. All right, and then after that, we're gonna be placing another ride. This one's actually the first researched ride that I got. I was researching high intensity because, again, most of these people in the parks do prefer high intensity rides. So this one is the top spin right next to the top scan, and then that one is going to be getting a queue cover as well once I get to that. And I actually made this a little bit different in the center of it. It has a little flower patch, but we'll get to that when we start doing that. But as of right now, we're actually working on this plaza area right at the top scan area. And so we did a bunch of pergola work, just like our queue for the top scan. And then we put a bunch of benches down and flowers down. And that is really kind of cozy and nice. And now we're going to be going to our top spin queue line. So as I said, we put down the flowers, and then we are doing a little bit of a greenhouse kind of queue. So it has like a glass intersection X look, and then surrounded by some brown flat roofs. So I'm really happy with how this one came out. It's a bit different, and I kind of wanted it to look like intertying with our little twister ride, but not exactly the same. So this is what I came up with, and I'm really happy with how it came out. So now that is basically it for this area. We got a couple more things that we're going to be doing, but nothing major. And this is the last thing. So I'll see you guys in a mid course right now. All right, so right now we are looking at a big overview of what we have done in this park so far. So we have all the rides we have placed down right here, and then we have our big roller coaster, and then our little plaza over here, and then our backstage area. So one thing that I do have to ride is this Killer Bee coaster, which we can do right now. But looking at the line, this line is insanely long, and I'm charging $14.50. So it is time to bring the price up just a little bit more. So why don't we go in and ride this coaster with bad operations? Oh, look, it's at the top. I didn't even see that one. So we'll just ride it on this one. and we'll let this go. So it has a great layout, but the it's really long, and then there's no block breaks, and it's only running two trains. So it's since it's so long, it really doesn't get a lot of operations. So it goes into a couple of inversions right off the bat, and then the rest of the ride does kind of some meandering around with a couple of inversions on the way. So um, in overall though, this coaster is really cool and really fun, or at least it looks really fun. And then it turns into the brakes, and then we are done with the coaster. We're just gonna wrap around. So that is the coaster here. And then I'll pause the game again so that we don't have all this noise kind of going around. And then we can look at our little food court area. We got pretzels and coffee, and then our info booth, and then the toilet building. Actually, I'll play it. And then our carousel actually has a good line, which is kind of surprising. And then this amazing cover. I really do like that. So why don't we actually bump the price up here? And then we have a kind of small plaza right here. And then our twister ride, which has absolutely nobody in line. And then our top spin ride, which has a good amount of queue length to it. For 13 people in the queue right now. Um, and then moving over here, probably the most popular ride after the roller coaster is this one with almost a full queue. So it's really a popular ride, and it brings in a good amount of money, $5.50 per person. And then we have our little pergola plaza over here, and then we have our little drop tower. So this drop tower is the tallest thing in the park. I think it's like 14 meters tall, and the coaster's only 12. So kind of cool there. And then our station over here. So the last thing you saw me place in the time lapse though was our children's coaster, our junior coaster, and it's right here. I just want to kind of see this drop tower go really quick. There it goes. Alright, so this we're actually going to be working on in the next section. I just kind of wanted to place this down and get an idea of where I wanted it to go. So it's going to go right here, and then it's going to kind of loop around this way and kind of finish off the back of the park. And I kind of wanted this area to kind of be maybe like a lookout area, and that could be like a photo spot or something. But kind of the theme for this whole area as a whole is something more of like the Old West, but like more like Silver Dollar City or something like that, where it's kind of Western but like wooden. So it's not a true Western. I don't really know how to explain it, but this coaster is going to be a lot like Verbolten or something like that, since it is kind of a terrain conforming coaster, and I don't want it to be just a kind of small children's coaster. I want it to be pretty big. So that's what we're going to be working on next, and then we're going to be trying to wrap around into this area over here with our broken elevators. So I just got an ice cream shop. Hopefully I get an umbrella shop because that's going to be needed. But that is all I really have to show you guys right now. So we're going to head back to a time lapse and then hopefully finish off this park. And by the way, one more thing that I got to show you guys. I have 230 guests of 500, and then what else? I kind of forgot the goals just a little bit. And then we have an 80% happiness rating, which is good. So we are on the right track right now. So we're around halfway there. I think a coaster and a bunch of more flat rides will definitely get us there. But why don't we head over to a time lapse now for sure, and we will hopefully finish out this park. Alright, so diving right back into our junior coaster layout, we are going to be creating it, and we're going to be going right out of the station into a little dip, into a turn, and then a mini bunny hop hill, and then up the lift. So, as I said, I wanted this to be more of a Verbolten style coaster, more of a family ride than a kiddie ride, but I really don't think I accomplished that with this roller coaster, and I could have went back and made it better, but I really just kind of left it as it was, didn't really kind of work on it to make it how exactly I wanted it to be. So instead of being a more intense ride, it became more of a little slow kind of tall but slow coaster. So that's a little bit of a disappointment there. And you can see that I'm trying to add more stuff going out to the water, but it really just wasn't working. So instead, I just kind of curved it back from the station from here. So in the second helix, it gains a good amount of speed, but then after that, it's going to start going downhill from there and losing a lot of speed and just kind of making its way back up to the station. So that's going to be pretty much it for this layout. It's going to go into a tunnel, which kind of adds a little bit of an element to it, but it's nothing crazy that adds to the excitement and fear rating and stuff like that. So after that, it really just kind of goes up and down to the height of the station, and then turns around into the brakes and then into the station. So that is the layout for this coaster. I named it the Monster just because it's got more of like a terrain conforming coaster. So I thought that'd be kind of fitting. And then it's also kind of a green with like an orange chariot, not chariot, car. And then that's pretty much what we're doing for that coaster. Now it's on to the queue and the station, which the queue is going to go through a couple drafts of what I want it to look like. The original draft was going over the track and over the station to the side where the top scan is. But when I was making the station, which I'm starting on now, I decided that it would be better for it to be more to going all the way near the drop tower entrance. So that's what I'm going to do. And I think I like it better that way. It kind of is able to expand the area instead of making it look all confined, which this park really is not confined. So we're going to leave it how this is right here. And we're going to build our station next. So this station is going to be pretty big. I want it to cover the actual station and the brake area. And the reason why I want it to be covering the brake area is because it can kind of act as like a transfer track almost in there, and a mechanical area if something breaks down. So that's a little sneak peek in there. But now we're going to be making our little layout for the station, which is basically an L. So it's going to be over most of the queue and then over the brakes and the station. So as I just said. So now we're kind of moving on to more of the detailing to it, and this one's going to be a pretty detailed building, I would say. Not as building or detailed as our carousel that we built earlier, but it's going to be kind of nice and different compared to the other detailing. So this one has a step kind of up. I don't know what that's called, but above the slants, it has a flat area with like a gap, and then there's going to be a lot of like almost fence looking stuff going around the roof. So like right here, that's what I'm talking about. Like it looks like a fence as if like somebody could be walking up there and it'd be totally safe. So that's pretty much the design for the station. Wow. And after this we are going to be moving on to another part of the front half, I would say. I would say it's more not really the converting half, because once you pass the coaster, then it starts to become more of the backside of the park. So I would say it's more of just a mini little section of the park, just like the top scan, and this coaster is like a little part of it as well. So that little part is actually going to be more of like a pirate area. But before we go there, we're going to be finishing up the details on this building. And that includes this little planter area that I created. So we're putting in like a little bit of shrubs, a little bit of mushrooms, and then we're going to be putting in a bunch of lights, which is something that I normally don't do with stations and queue covers. So that's just a little bit of something different that I've done in this station, which I think this is probably my best roller coaster station I've ever made, which I think is not the best station in general, but I still do like how this turned out. And then another thing that we did was put in this like little overhang deck area, and then we put a little photo spot on that, so it kind of brings the like lift hill where you can get a photo in there, and with a bunch of scenery with trees and rocks and all that stuff back there. So I think that'd be a really good photo, and I really don't never used one of those before, so I don't know how they work. But now we're kind of moving our sign around to give us more room to work, and that is what we're going to be doing right here. Moving on to the next section of the park, which is going to be this pirate area, as I said. And the reason why I say that is because we have a swinging ship ride. This ride is going to be the only ride in this little section. I was debating whether to use the little swan ride that we're given or not. And I decided not to, just because that those rides really don't aren't that popular, and if they are popular, then people complain because the wait is really really long. So I just decided to leave it out of this park, and it might have helped out, and might have not. I don't really know since I didn't place it. But this ride or this area is going to be more of a wood and red area instead of like a brown all over. So the brown is going to be the pathing, and then we're going to have like a dark brown, almost like a stucco instead of wood, and then more of a like red and light red and all that kind of colors over there, just to kind of break up all the wood, kind of give it a little bit of different textures. But again, before we're going over there, we're making sure that all the decoration stuff, all our decoration rating is good. So vandalism, which right about here, the vandalism is going to be starting to kick up, which is weird. I think the game really kind of knows when you're doing really well and when you're kind of beginning, because when you're beginning, you really don't have that much vandalism. But then when you start to get close to the goal, like around here, I had like around 400 guests, which is pretty close. And then it kind of I guess it knows, or it seems to know, because it brought a bunch of problems up, and you'll see that when we get a little bit farther in. But what we're doing right now, you can see a like a pink roof, as I said, like light red, pink, and then we brought in two shops, the umbrella shop and the ice cream shop. Both of them are from research, and then another thing we did was we made this huge building that goes all the way down to our little swinging ship, and then there's gonna be a depot back there. There's not one yet because I didn't have enough money to buy one, so I just kind of left it there. It is ready to go though whenever we have enough money to do it. So that will be coming, I promise that. But the last building that we did down there is the restroom stall, and I wanted to have a good amount of restrooms, just because people would be complaining that they could not find a restroom, and that probably the restroom would be really ugly, or not ugly but dirty. So I made sure that we had another one of those, and we'll be putting another one later on in the video as well. So now we are moving on to the second half of the park. After all that work, it's been a really long time working on the front half, and I'm really happy with how it's turned out. And now this is where it's going to get hard, because I'm really low on money and we got a long way to go. So the first ride we're going to be placing in this area is our little wave swinger. And this ride is a pretty popular calm ride, I would say. So I'm really uh, kind of sad that I didn't place this in the beginning half, just because it would have brought in a good amount of money for the calm ride people, and then but at the same time, I didn't, because people prefer more intense rides. So this ride would be more of the main thrill for the calm people in the second half of the park. So for the queue cover, I actually decided to take part of the roof out, just because the chairs seemed to be going through the roof, and I really didn't like that. So instead, we did a little kind of weird cover where half of the queue is covered and half of it is not. And then we did some more detailing to that, and that ride is pretty much done. So from now, we're actually going to be doing a little bit of critiquing, micromanaging this park as a whole, and it's going to be doing that. We're going to be doing that a lot during this, and the reason for doing all this micromanaging is because we're low on money, and I'm trying to make sure that everything is really high. So with the people count really high, vandalism gets high, and all of that stuff starts to get crazy. So I had to keep an eye on that as well. But we still do have a lot of this park to build on, so that is going to include a lot more rides, and something that I'll talk about a little more in the end portion, when we're kind of wrapping up the little scenario, or hopefully we're wrapping it up, is how many towers we're going to have in this park. We're going to have a lot, but we'll talk about that when we get there, since that's going to be near the very end of our time lapse here. But the next ride for now is going to be our Wipeout, which is another ride that I got from research. And this one really, I don't think gets a big line in general. For the most part anyway, I don't see big lines to it. But in this scenario, I saw a pretty good line, and I think that's just because there's a lack of rides in the back of the park. So for this ride or for right now, we're just doing like a pergola kind of queue there, and it's kind of hanging over, so it has like cool like concrete little bed almost. It's like a wall, making sure that it doesn't fall and people can't climb under it. So that's just kind of a little cool detail as well. And then we're kind of sprucing up these little plazas areas. I wanted to make these paths a little bit nicer, but anyway, now that we have our next ride from research, it is the Topple Tower. And by the way, I am cutting a lot of the time lapse out just because there was a lot of waiting in this section, just because I am really, really low on money in this part, and we'll see a bunch of stuff with that later. But the Topple Tower is going to be hopefully a pretty popular ride. And again, I did the concrete that makes it look like it has a stable ground, but with the Topple Tower, it has been a really reliable and a good money maker. So I put it in there. Hopefully, that's going to draw a bunch of guests back there, and then bunch of guests are going to be joining the park and then spending money, so I can keep expanding. But as I said, we're going to be putting in a third bathroom way earlier. When we were working on our little pirate area, and that's what I did. I connected it to our little tower observation deck, and then I think it looks really nice going along with that. So that is what we've done with all three bathrooms. That is going to be the last bathroom in this park, which is kind of surprising since it's a huge park and we only have three bathrooms. So that is going to be it for the bathrooms anyway. We do still have a lot of rides to go in, and we have a lot of time lapse still to go, which is really surprising since most of the scenarios are done around this point. We still have a good couple of minutes to go. So, the next thing we're doing is we're finally adding our depots in here. The first one going into our little pirate area, which I said and I promised that would happen, and I did make good on my promise. It has happened. So now we're going to be connecting it to our depot. And the reason why depots are really important in this scenario is because the people complain about seeing all the haulers going around, and that destroys the happiness rating a lot. So I don't know if you guys saw it, but when I was looking at the people's thoughts of the park, most of them were sad because they saw haulers everywhere. So that's something that I wanted to fix right away, and I think I did a pretty good job of fixing that. And we're not done with that either. We're going to be going back to our third little cafe area plaza, and then we're going to be adding one back there as well. But we don't have enough money for that right now. Right now we are adding our third coaster and our final coaster, something that I don't like building, these power coasters, but we had to build it because for some reason the people count, or like the population of the park, really did not want to go over 420 people. For some reason it would just stay there. I would get up to like maybe 450, and then it would go right back down to 420. Even with the two new rides, it would go up and then it would go back down. So the hope was this coaster would bring in a lot more people, especially because coasters do bring in a good amount of people. But I don't like powered coasters. They don't really bring much fear, which is the main factor in reeling people into the coaster. So it's more of like children's ride, but they really aren't that popular. So the lines don't get that long. And you just saw me there get a loan. It's the cheapest loan. It was only $7,000. But the reason why I did this is because I didn't want to wait any longer for money. I had already went over the goal line. I think it's year 4 right now. So I just decided, hey, let me give me this loan so I can get this over with, and that's what I did. So now we are done with this layout. That's the final part of this layout. Only a couple helixes, maybe a bunny hop hill, and then a turnaround. Nothing too crazy. And then we're going to be working on our queue and station here. So this station is going to be a little bit different than the other ones as well. The roof is a really dark brown, which I really haven't done in this scenario. And then we have it following a little bit of the queue as well, with a flat patch on the top. So nothing too crazy with it, but it's just a little bit different. And then the coaster itself, I actually named the Water Demon just because it's over the water a lot, and I thought that was a kind of cool name. So that's what we went with here. And then you see me kind of putting a spire down. Really didn't work though. So we're going to be going through and fixing all this vandalism now. You can see that the vandalism got really, really crazy when I was building that coaster. I don't know why, but it really just did. And as I was saying earlier, I think the game just knows that you're going to be doing good, so it really does kind of makes it harder on you. So we have one last ride to go in after we kind of micromanage this park just a little bit more, putting in one more depot, which I said was going to be in this little back plaza where you can buy pretzels and coffee, just like the one in the very front. But this depot should ensure that the haulers aren't walking around with crates everywhere, and that should bump up our happiness rating in this park. Which ratings are probably the hardest thing to bump up in this or in Parkitect in general, or to make sure that they're high. So happiness rating is a rating, and it's kind of hard to keep up. So, and you're actually going to see that when we are getting near the end of the scenario, when we actually start making progress in our goal. But before we do that, we got our last ride, which is another drop tower. This one is a launch drop tower instead of the gyro drop tower. So this one really doesn't have that long of a queue. It really doesn't get that long of a queue anyway. So that is going to be a final ride in this park. I guarantee it. Nothing left really. We just hit our 500 people mark, and now we just have to make sure that our happiness rating is really good. And we're actually going to be hitting our first, or we're getting their little notification here in a second, which is right there. But we're going to lose it because the happiness rating dipped down. So we're just going to be micromanaging for the rest of the time lapse, and I will see you guys in a real time portion because I will save all that micromanaging for you guys. So here's the second one. Here we go to the end and finally end the scenario. All right, we are getting there. We're so close. Hopefully it doesn't dip down, and I believe we got it. It has been 2 years over our optional goal. It is year 4 in October, and our optional goal was to do it in December of year 2. So we failed our optional goal, but we have completed Adventure Island, which is awesome. This was probably the hardest scenario that I've ever done, even though I think I underestimated it, because when I was starting the scenario, I actually got one of the goals right off the bat, which was my happiness rating. But why don't we take a quick look at this? I don't want to make this video too much longer. I did have to bump up the price to actually $17 for Killer Bee, and the queue is still full, which is crazy insane. We mainly looked at this part, the front half in the mid-course, so we'll look at the back half. We will take a ride on our coaster really quick. We'll speed this up so that we don't have to wait much longer. And we'll get on a ride. Oop, uh-oh. I think I got on the wrong one. Here we go. And it's going super fast. Alright, well, we'll just get on the chain link then. That's okay. The front half really is kind of slow, and it's really just a curve and a bunny hill anyway. And it barely stops, so that's okay as well. And nobody's riding it because it's raining, of course. So yeah, it gets a good amount of speed down here, and then it kind of mellows out after this really fun tunnel. For our population in this park, actually, though, we have 533 people, and we are making $1,000 a month. So that's not bad at all. We actually are doing fairly good. I know I had to take out a loan for this coaster over here, which we will ride in 1 second, but I think it was worth it just to get this done with and not making the time lapse 1 hour long. So this is broken right now. Uh-oh. We'll let somebody get there, and then we have our towers over here. So why don't we ride this coaster right here? I think it does 2 laps since it's a powered coaster, and it's loading on right now. If you just heard the little cranks of the little seat belts or seat lap bars and stuff. So I just got paid for people coming on, and we will be dispatching in 1 second. Alright, here we go, out into an S-bend, and then out into the big launch, and then turn around right over the water, and then bunny hill into a little helix that keeps turning all the way around, and then a turnaround into the station, and then we do the same thing again, all over again. So nothing too crazy. It's more of a family coaster, as I said. That's why I don't really like buying and creating these, just because they don't bring in as much money as I would like them to. and then it goes really close to the Killer Bee coaster as well, which is kind of nice. But as I said in the time lapse, if you guys remember, I said something about having a bunch of towers. So we have 3 towers right next to each other: a launch drop tower, a topple tower, and the observation tower. That's insane. Just 3 right next to each other, and then that's not it. We have a regular drop tower as well. So there's 4 towers in total in this park, which is really nice. So right, why don't we go into our save screen and then go and see what happened here. So we'll save it and then we will quit and we will see what we have going on right here. So we have our tower here from Adventure Island. I was figuring that that would be our little trophy. So what is our next scenario? Now that we have completed Adventure Island. This one splits into 2 again, so now we have 3 different options. Oh, no, wait, yes we do. This one we have Biscayne Beach, which it looks like we have to have 10 coins at least, and that's a bit different. That's never happened before. So, 10 coins, we have 12, so we're okay there. And then we have Ice Shelf Island, and then Batavia K. So I don't know which one we will look at first. That's 3 options that we have. I won't read the descriptions since it is 3, but thank you guys so much for watching. We will do one of these in the next episode, I promise, and I don't think it will be as long of a wait as it has been since the previous episode. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and make sure to have an amazing day.